Now, I like this title. There's more to life than books, you know, but not much more. That's like a Smiths song, I think.
It
Not
is.
really.
It's not really related
Yeah.
to the presentation, but I was just thinking of trying to think of a snappy title, and that song came into my head. So yeah,
Oh, it
one
brings
for the
back memories. I mean, those lyrics from. Anyway, right. So without further ado, Sarah, so from Leeds Trinity, over to you.
Thanks, Biddy. Hi, everyone. So yeah, I'm a liaison librarian at Leeds Trinity University with teacher education in my subject portfolio. And this involves looking after a teaching practice collection that houses pupil and teacher non-fiction books, practical equipment, and also a children's literature collection. And for the last couple of academic years, I've run a book club with some of our final year primary education trainees as a way to raise awareness of our children's literature collection and to also introduce trainees to a wider range of children's books, authors, and award schemes. Now I've just pressed for the next slide to come up, so I'll see if it does. Is it going to be a while? Could I have that? Thank you. So the first club was set up in 2023, and I decided to shadow the UK Literacy Association Book Awards, as the shortlist was due to be announced around March, which was when I wanted the first meeting to take place. And also because they're the only book awards judged by teachers, and using the shortlist titles was a quick and easy way of choosing the books that we were going to be discussing. And we reviewed titles that were shortlisted in the 3 to 6 plus and the 7 to 10 plus age categories. And there were 12 in total. And on the slide there, it's the titles highlighted in the yellow squares. So there were 6 picture books and 6 short chapter books altogether. I'd planned to hold meetings originally in March, April, and early May to allow us enough time to read all the books. But unfortunately, the shortlist for the awards wasn't announced until the very end of March. And I then had to purchase the books and get them out to students. So we ended up just having 3 meetings very close together from the end of April to mid-May. Could I have the next slide, please? I didn't expect the group to read all of each of the books, especially the short chapter books, just what they could fit in alongside all their other commitments. And also having to hold the meetings so close together meant discussing several books at each meeting, which wasn't ideal, but we did manage it. At each meeting, we discussed the main themes of each book, what we thought of the characters and how the story might connect to the lived experiences of its readers, and whether we would recommend it to others, particularly other teachers. And I used Padlet discussion boards to keep track of our discussions, and also gave group members the link so that they could add comments if they wanted to after the meeting, but not many did, I have to say. Attendance was a little bit hit and miss. The first meeting, everybody came, but then after that, there were always 1 or 2 people missing for several reasons, due to assignment deadlines, illness, that kind of thing. But quite often, if someone couldn't attend, then they did email me their thoughts about the books that we were going to be discussing so that I could feed into the discussion and add them onto the Padlet as well. Next slide, please. And at the end of all the meetings, the group voted for the winners in each category, and then we waited to see if UKLA had agreed with us. So you can see our favourite picture book was one called, I think, with something about a monster. I can't remember the title of it now. But the UKLA voted for a book called Flooded, so completely different. And then again in the 7 to 11 plus category, The Elephant in the Room was our favourite book, but the winner the UKLA chose was The Light in Everything. So a big difference of opinion, as neither of the 2 books that were UKLA winners actually even got a vote from us. But we were fine with that. We weren't necessarily looking to kind of match the winners. We just wanted to kind of shadow the award itself. Next slide, please. I did gather some feedback after the meetings, but again, only half the group responded. But I think by this time, they were either coming towards the end of their course, or they were going on their last placement, or getting their dissertations ready for submission. But all the ones that submitted said that they would recommend the book club to other students. And one student did actually say that they'd use one of the titles to plan a lesson on their placement, which was really great. I was thrilled to hear that. And you can see on the slide some more of the feedback. So they were quite pleased to be exposed to a wider range of children's books that they wouldn't have otherwise chosen to read. And they enjoyed being part of the group and being able to discuss books with other students and consider things from another perspective. And it was also interesting to hear other people's interpretations of the stories that we looked at. Next slide, please. There were several suggestions to change the timings, as April and May are quite busy months. So this academic year, I ran the club from November to January. This did work a little bit better, but attendance was still a bit hit and miss. But I think that will probably always be the case because of assignment deadlines, etc. Running from November to January meant we couldn't shadow the UKLA Awards this time. So instead, I chose books that had been shortlisted for other children's book awards, ones that perhaps were less well known. So the Little Rebels Children's Book Award, the Diverse Book Awards, and again, the UKLA Book Awards. And the 5 titles that you can see on screen are the ones that we looked at. So we reviewed fewer titles, 2 picture books, 2 short chapter books, and a poetry book. So just the 5 in total. Just a little bit about the future as well. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to run the award this coming academic year, simply because at Leeds Trinity we're opening a campus in the Leeds city centre, and myself and colleagues will be working at both sites. So I'm not sure how it will work kind of commitment wise and whether I'll be able to fit it in. So I'm trying to figure out if I can, excuse me, commit the time. I would like to, but it may be a case that I perhaps have to run it maybe later in the academic year, perhaps maybe April, May time again, but with maybe level 5s rather than level 6s. So they haven't got the dissertation commitments and they're not out on placement. So I'm kind of rethinking what to do with it this year. But overall, it's a great thing to do, and I do hope to run it again in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Right, we've got a tiny little bit of space before we start our next talk. So I think we've got a little bit of time for questions. So I just noticed the questions come in from Chidinma for you, Sarah. So I'll start with you and then I'll go back to Jackie. So Chidinma's asking, who participated in the book clubs?
It was level 6 primary education trainees.
Okay.
I went into a lecture at the beginning of term and asked for people and kind of talked about the club and then asked them to kind of get in touch and let me know if they wanted to take part with a reason why. Initially, I wanted 6 members, and that's how many I had in the first year. This year, 8 people got in touch, so I did open it out to a couple of extra ones because I'm a soft touch.
Oh, it sounds a really great idea. Really great idea. Okay, thank you, Sarah.